So, Marie, you ever think, I just don't trust those stupid doctors with their dumb stethoscopes.
Oh, dude, I work with doctors all the time.
What
all the time.
What I would rather do is treat my cancer with a paste that I buy from a Korean website.
Yes. I would like to just ignore, just trash, years and years of educated medical opinions and science-based logic, to fight a disease that is ultimately going to kill me in the most painful possible way with something I can find on Etsy.
Right. No, yeah. What I look for in a medical
eBay.
professional, what I look for in a medical professional is much similar to what I look for in someone who, makes vases or interesting mugs with funny lewd sayings on them.
Yes.
I look for a live journal and I look for a PayPal thing.
Absolutely.
A nice little link where I can get the stuff. It can be sent to me in the secrecy of the US mail, and then I can smear dangerous chemicals onto my face and burn the cancer away.
Because you know what really works? Burning the cancer away.
It so works.
Let's just freely burn off that stuff. That's good. That sounds, and you know what? It sounds like it works, and it sounds like it's totally painless.
All right, episode over. Buy Mad Scientist Black Salve, $300 an ounce.
Welcome to the Mad Scientist Podcast. This week's episode, Black Salve.
All right, so if the very angry intro was not any indication, this episode we are talking about what is commonly known on the internet as Black Salve, also known as Cansema, or it's called.
That's not a death metal band.
No, but it would be
New Hampshire. Black Salve.
But it would be a great death metal band name though, especially from New Hampshire.
Oh my god,
my favorite state. Black Salve is so it has a lot of different names online. You can get it as Amazon Black Salve. You can get it as Indian Black Salve. You can get it as Bloodroot Salve. You can also get it as Iscariot is another word for it. Or the kind of thing that it does. It's an escharotic, is the word for it. Now, what this does is Black Salve is basically it's a form of cancer treatment that is specifically supposed to be used for, and it's not just cancer treatment. It is supposed to be used for topical use to remove any kind of dermatological problem, but has found particular use on the internet in recent years as a cancer treatment, as an alternative medicine form of cancer treatment. Now, this is a quote from a 1955 article in Time magazine. That is the first time that this salve was written about in the United States. It says, quote, "A 37-year-old housewife had a skin condition that later, at Duke, proved not to be a cancer. Convinced that it was, she had gone to a backwoods healer who applied a salve. Soon, a quarter-sized hole disfigured her nose, opened up the nasal cavity. Duke's plastic surgeons had to build her a new nose," end quote. Now, that seems like something that occurred in the 50s. I mean, that happened in 1955. Almost the exact same story occurred with horrifying results on an alternative medicine message board, where actually a woman who had tried this on a skin cancer that she had on her nose applied the Black Salve, and it basically ate away her entire nose, showing the entirety of the lower nasal cavity. Very expensive surgeries afterward, and was disfigured for the rest of her life. As far as I know, I don't think there's been any updates since. Now, the idea of this treatment, it's known as an eschar, and so an eschar comes from the Greek word eschara, which is for slough, or to basically to slough away dead tissue from your skin. Okay. Now, what these do is an eschar is commonly seen in certain diseases. So, for instance, black eschars are common in anthrax. And what occurs basically is a black spot of dead tissue forms on your body.
Mm-hmm.
It then it causes the tissue there to die, and then that tissue will eventually kind of just slough away, and you will end up with below that new skin, but it's usually scarred or disfigured in some way potentially.
Yeah,
Now,
because anthrax.
yeah,
Anything that has a derivative or is relative to anthrax,
yeah,
right? I mean, that's not something that you want to be applying to your skin.
no,
Sorry,
No.
I just. Oh,
No,
I'm
not
just
at
propping
all.
myself up, man. I thought talking about gangrene and Civil War eyeball injuries was painful. This is just like, not only is this painful, but this is like you're doing it to yourself. Like you're thinking you're going to heal cancer with this. Sorry, keep going.
no, it's
Just
fine.
Just
It's fine.
Ooh,
So-
get that out.
Okay, so what this chemical basically does is it goes onto the body, like we said, and then it causes it just kills all of the cells that it touches, and then it even can dig into the skin. It can even because again, this is a chemical that you're applying depending on the type of chemical, depending on its potency, depending on how bioavailable it is, or rather how mobile it is through skin cells. It can actually go through the skin and actually get to the underlying tissues there. Now, what these things that they're selling online can do is cause such tremendous damage that it'll leave you completely disfigured. The idea here is that cancer is something like a wart in these people's minds, right? So you know, if you've ever had warts, they can be really hard to get rid of. They're super annoying. They come back all the time, whatever. What you can do, though, is you can get them frozen off, or you can get them treated with chemicals, right? You can use salicylic acid, for instance, right? And what that will do is it'll actually form it basically will chemically burn away the wart, killing the cells around it and the wart cells themselves, and then hopefully destroying them to such an extent that it doesn't grow back. That is the same kind of idea of what is supposed to happen with these eschars to remove cancers. Now, the problem with that is that cancer is not like a wart. Cancer can be mobile, so it can metastasize and move throughout the body. Cancer also, depending on what kind of cancer it is and whether or not it is metastatic, you might need all kinds of different treatments. So treating cancer at home, it's a little bit different than treating a headache with some herbal tea you buy online.
Oh my God. I think it may be helpful to step back and talk about like, okay, so how do people normally treat cancer and diagnose cancer and even use things like radiopharmaceuticals to as therapy to try and treat cancer as well? Because I think that just to step back and give some context, my mom Rose is she has cancer. She is surviving with cancer. She had stage 4 lung and brain cancer. And so she was fortunate enough that she was one of 20% of the population that actually can take a pill that works in lieu of radiation.
Chemotherapy.
Yes. So she is one of 20% of the population that actually can take an oral pill instead of getting chemotherapy. And it's amazing because it has much less side effects. However, she, and she's doing very well. If anything, I think, I tell people I almost feel sorry for the cancer. Joke, Mom, joke. We love our mom.
Yes.
But she did, in researching it and going online, and she's very much into herbal and homeopathic remedies. She was very suspect of a lot of the things that they were evaluating her on, such as PET or SPECT cameras. So PET CT is positron emission topography or computed tomography. So it is a nuclear medicine technique, and it's basically a scanner where you will ingest a radiopharmaceutical, which I will kind of go into in a little bit. And that radiopharmaceutical is metabolized by the body and emits gamma rays. And the gamma rays are actually picked up and can be viewed on a camera, and then it's gotten to the point where it's so sophisticated that you can actually see specific parts of the body depending on the radiopharmaceutical that you take.
Mm-hmm.
So my mom, as soon as you say something like taking a radiopharmaceutical, and you're emitting gamma rays and it's radiation, she immediately, I think as most people do, kind of freak out a little bit and like, what is it? It's radiation. It's bad for you, and it has a lot of apprehension for it. And so she was going online and she was doing a lot of, I want to say Reddit for older people or Facebook or whatever it is.
Sure.
Where she was hearing all sorts of terrible things about this. And nothing could be further from the truth, because radiopharmaceuticals, they do use an isotope, but that isotope has a very short half-life and is out of the body very quickly. And it's very common. It's a very common use, and it is like one of the most common treatments for diagnosis and therapy. But she was, of course, hearing this and was freaking out and was thinking, hey, maybe I can see how everything around radiation, chemotherapy, if you have any kind of preconceived notion about that, you immediately would think a salve or something that is homeopathic is going to be better for me than something that is going to radiate my body further, right?
Well, the interesting thing with radiation for listeners that don't know, cancer is extremely complicated. It's not one thing. Cancer is all kinds of different diseases mixed up into one overarching title, right? So you think of it almost as like, I don't know. It's kind of similar in some ways to like, the whole range of complications. Like cancer, it's like saying you died of a virus, right? There's so many different types, so many different ways, and they kind of act in similar ways in some ways, but you know what I mean? So cancer it's not one giant, homogeneous thing, right? Now, the thing with some cancers have a really hard time being treated with radiation because of the area of the body that they're in, right? So for instance, my dad had a super bad time getting radiation treatment on his mouth. Completely destroyed the teeth, gave him radiation poisoning and burns. It was really bad. But other types of cancer are very well treated with radiation therapy. But I think it has something to do, like what you said, Marie, this idea of, radiation as medicine seems so out of the, radiation is supposed to be dangerous.
Yes,
right?
Exactly.
Radiation kills you. It doesn't heal you. But the thing is, that is kind of what the radiation is being used to do. It is being used to destroy the cancer cells, right?
Yes.
Now, and that's what's kind of interesting is that actually, in some ways, this idea of the use of a topical ointment to kill skin cancer is actually one of the first ways we had for dealing with skin cancer, right? So the very first use of this kind of thing was, at least in Western medicine, was by Frederick Mohs in the 1930s. While he was a medical student at the University of Wisconsin in Madison. And so what he basically discovered was that you could use a mixture of zinc chloride with bloodroot and some other things, antimony trisulfide specifically. And what you would do is you would apply this paste that he made up over a tumor. And over time, the tumor would die and then be able to be removed surgically. And as you were removing these tumors with this paste, he would then simultaneously be looking at it under histology, which is the analysis of cells via microscopy, so with a microscope. And so what he was able to do then was actually analyze those readings from the microscope to look actually at these cells and see if they had tumors or not. And so over time, then this method was known by Mohs as chemosurgery, right? And it is really the beginnings of a whole field of surgery, micrographic surgery specifically. But the thing was, so this was like the use of this method to kill these tumors in a very, this was in a surgeon's theater or at a hospital with a doctor applying the paste and analyzing it and making use of it, right? Now,
yes.
At the same time, when Mohs' method was becoming more famous, Harry Hoxsey, basically a cancer quack before cancer quackery was available on the internet, developed basically a similar kind of method. Or not really a method. He developed a similar toxin, or tonic rather. He didn't call it a toxin, but it used the same toxin that was in Mohs' thing. It used bloodroot. Now, right. This paste that Hoxsey made contained antimony sulfide, bloodroot, and zinc chloride. And the idea was that you would apply this to yourself with a little bit of petroleum jelly around it, and over time, the affected area would die, it would necrotize, and then it would fall away. Okay? Now, this is in like the late 40s. So, Hoxsey, his thing got pulled out of the market after Mohs publicly said that you should not be using this method at home. So like 1948, 1950, Mohs was like, no, you shouldn't be doing it this way. So then in the 1950s, the FDA blocked the interstate transport of Hoxsey's formulas. In 56, it issued a nationwide warning about using Hoxsey's methods. And in the 63, Hoxsey left America and moved to Tijuana, where he still operates a clinic today. Or at least his clinic still operates. I think Hoxsey's long dead, but anyways, so it's
if he was mixing up this stuff,
right? So the thing is that this actually has a history in real medicine, right? Of course, it moved over to quackery eventually, but the use of these chemicals to kill off cells is actually relatively well known. But so the way that this actually works is the bloodroot that's inside. Bloodroot contains a chemical known as sanguinarine. Okay. Now, it is a toxic polycyclic ammonium ion. So it basically is composed of a lot of benzene rings. So 1, 2, 3, 4 benzene rings with an ammonia group on the central benzene there. And it's actually a positive ammonia. So it is known as a positive ammonia ion. And then it also has these cyclic oxygen ring groups off on the edges of it. But anyways, all that chemistry stuff isn't really important. What it does is this specific chemical kills animal cells. And so what it does is it destroys the transmembrane protein that is present in our cells, basically. And so it basically stops this protein from acting, and so then your cells wither up and die, and that's why everywhere it touches dies of chemical death. So it's so it's bad.
It's basically almost like it burns it off.
It absolutely burns it off. That is exactly what it does. Burns it off. It in some ways it's very similar to the way that, so with radiation, what it does to cells is it actually it destroys the DNA so that the cell can no longer produce the proteins it needs, and then leads to the death. In this case, it is specifically targeting a single protein's effect. And so it's actually, it's messing it up. It's bad stuff. But now,
I think really quick, the thing too, to sort of draw even a further distinction is radiation, especially for treatments in the brain, can be so specialized and so localized that it is less than the head of a pin they can identify.
Yeah.
And they can target within the brain cell. So it's like, it's versus putting a salve on and surrounding it with a little petroleum jelly, right? to to something it is on a microscopic level, but they are able to target and treat within the brain.
Yeah.
Which is an amazing, like, that is an amazing advent, like that they're able to get to that level of treatment and to have it be that precise in something like, again, in the center of all of your functions and everything you need. You want to make sure that it's taking care of the cancer cells and not other functions. So it's to me, it's like, again, it's almost, it comes from the same, it feels like it comes from the same belief system almost. And that you think, oh, bloodroot, the indigenous people use that. I'm sure it's fine. It's been around since the 30s. What could be wrong with it?
Yeah.
Ugh.
Yeah.
Sorry, dude, I'm gonna have to have some more. I'm gonna have something else to drink. This is.
It's all good.
Oh, Jesus, man. What are we gonna? What are we talking about? Puppies and porcupines and kittens and cute baby quails.
I don't even know. So this stuff was really used a lot in the it was used a lot in the 50s and 60s, right? It was kind of where it became what's the word? Kind of where it became more interested to the general public, right?
Yes.
Now, with the internet, it has become especially popular again because of how easy it is to get this stuff. Now, again, it's known as Black Salve, also known as Cansema. You can get it it's not hard to find on the internet. It is extremely dangerous. Do not order this stuff. It is illegal to own, or it's illegal to sell and buy. I believe, anyways, it's definitely illegal to transport into the United States. And it is extremely, extremely dangerous. It will disfigure you and burn you pretty badly. Now, this is all part of a larger thing in the modern age of alternative cancer treatments generally, right? Mm-hmm. So Marie, you talked about your mom's resistance to traditional medicine for a little bit at least. Mm-hmm. I know, for instance, my mom is also slightly resistant in some instances. But my dad, again, when he was first diagnosed with cancer, all of a sudden he was religious again.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I remember there was a very bad person in Staten Island selling water supposedly from the Lourdes, Lourdes in France. The Virgin Mary statue that I'm sure it just came from a faucet someplace in Brooklyn or something, right?
Yeah.
But they would sell these for like $1 a pop or something, and I remember it was like we had them all over our house, whatever, and it was ridiculous. You know what I mean? It's just water. Now, thankfully, my dad also went to normal medicine for a time, but
right.
But that idea is still there, right? And I think in many ways we really want this stuff to work in some ways, right?
Well, it's the power of belief. Like even Steve Jobs, when he was diagnosed with cancer, a fairly treatable, caught early on.
Yeah.
Had he followed a traditional path of remedy for it, his chances of survival would have been greater but he opted to take an alternative care method.
Yeah.
Which, again, like if you are sort of treating your psyche with alternative care and with you're augmenting another treatment that is more, I don't want to say traditional, but it's like it's proven. Like it cures cancer for a reason.
Yeah.
Then that's one thing, but just to solely put your, again, it comes down to your sort of this belief or this faith in something being able to cure you.
Yeah.
Which is suspect.
Yeah. Now,
to begin with.
So one scary thing with this Black Salve stuff is that it's sold online. Now, one person though who is kind of famous for actually going to jail for this is Greg Caton. Gregory James Caton, who he started a bunch of different companies, but he's probably best known for Alpha Omega Labs, which manufactures natural healthcare products and currently distributes from Ecuador, where he operates out of. Now, he is a
Ecuador, where the FDA has no reach.
Yeah, it's pretty insane. So what this guy was selling, so there was a again during the early 2000s, late 90s, right? He started this Alpha Omega Labs, and it started selling alternative health stuff on the internet.
Oh God!
And specifically, it distributed through just around the world through 14 different distributors, and was eventually closed by the FDA in 2003. And so he pleaded guilty to charges that he defrauded consumers in that 2003 conviction. But he continued selling stuff, right? He kept selling stuff, whatever, did not care. And so eventually their lab was part of an expose in Business Week in the review of a book, Natural Causes. And basically what it found was that a woman, Sue Gilead, who used Cansema and also H3O, which is just stupid and ridiculous, to treat skin cancer on her nose. And so she claimed
why is it always on the nose?
Now,
like right in the middle of your face.
Skin
Don't
cancer
do that.
Skin cancer is it's easy to get on your nose. Your nose is always out there, right?
I know, but it sounds like these people are putting these highly toxic, highly caustic things right on their nose.
Here's the thing. Sue Gilead, her nose was burned away by the Cansema.
Oh God.
Okay. And so
of course it was.
Yeah. So anyways, she tried to sue them and everything, and eventually what occurred is that the US FDA, again, the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, and Firearms, and the federal, just kind of the federal law enforcement bureaucracy generally went after him, raided his home and his offices and stuff. And actually, he's been sentenced to 33 months in prison for possession of weapons, defrauding customers, and violating FDA regulations. Now, he has been put out on probation. Okay. And Alpha Omega Labs has reopened as of June 2008. Yeah.
Of course it has. Of course it has.
Yeah.
Now, so this leads us into sort of more of an ethics question. So you're one of these doctors. How many of these doctors do you believe have some diluted sense of self that they're actually helping versus doctors that are just solely in it for the money? Because I'm like,
there are very few doctors who actually consider this as an effective treatment, right?
Well, yes.
Like Mohs surgery is still used, right? And there are people like Andrew Weil, right, who is an absolute nutcase. He believes basically that you can utilize Black Salve to treat things variously, and anyways, it's not great, but there's very few actual doctors that believe that this stuff is useful in any sort of way. I believe that in many cases it is the power of belief that lets these people sort of continue the use of this stuff in different ways, but it's also a lack of regulation. So right now, any listener of this show could start a supplement company and sell them on the internet without any hassle from the US government. We could start selling supplements on our show that are full of garbage. Okay. Shredded newspaper and a little bit of applesauce, right? Like from that Simpsons episode where that power bar was, right? Like, yes. We could start selling that stuff, and it would, first off, even if they did pass a law to stop it, it would take them forever to get us. You would never catch us, the feds, and we're too smart for you. But anyways, on top of that, like, there really is no regulation of these alternative medicine markets. And part of it is because in America, we have this weird view of like it's not just in America, but like we have this view that people deserve or people should be allowed to make the wrong medical decisions if they want to.
Yes, but it's your body. Well, yeah, I think that, yes. I mean, that you have the right to refuse treatment. You have the right to
but that's
to treat your body in whatever way. Well, yeah, but I mean, that's the commonly held belief, right?
Absolutely. But the thing is that it never extends kind of sensibly in a way, right? So, or not sensibly, I want to say, but like, for instance, this gets into the question of assisted suicide, right? Mm-hmm. You're allowed to buy a burning salve on the internet to burn, you can burn away your whole arm if you want. You know what I mean? They don't care, but you can't take a drug to die painlessly before cancer destroys your body, right? That's a little weird. That seems ethically to be something wrong there, right?
Agreed.
And on top of it, you get this question of so this stuff is so it gets into a larger question about what is the responsibility of someone selling something to you in terms of, for instance, okay, I'm going to sell you a material that will cause you cancer.
Okay.
Like I'm going to sell you a
asbestos.
Okay. Well, like let's say it's got all kinds of stuff in it. Let's say I wrap it up. So let's say it's a I'm going to start with a plant and then I'm going to dry it out and I'm going to flavor it a little bit, but I'm mostly going to add stuff in there to make it like burn better and stuff. And then I'm going to roll it up into paper and then sell it to you.
Yeah. Yes. Very true.
And I'm going to say that originally it's for treating things like, stomach disorders and anxiety and whatever. Like we have this, so for the listeners that didn't get my very heavy-handed treatment there, I'm talking about cigarettes. We have this long history in the West, especially, of things that we have allowed being bad for us, but other things that are bad for us, but kind of maybe okay for us, but weird, just an area that's whatever, it kind of gets bad press or whatever, has a much harder time, right?
Yes. Well, it depends on who is doing the selling. So, selling air quotes, like if you are a doctor, what is the first, like, what is the Hippocratic oath? It's do no harm, right? You will do no harm to your patient. You'll do no harm to others, right? So I don't think anyone in the tobacco industry is a doctor or adheres to that necessarily.
No, but they used to prescribe tobacco.
Yes.
Right. Yes. I mean, they still do. They still do for some things. For irritable bowel syndrome, they will occasionally suggest smoking. Because it is a way to calm the stomach.
That's what I use.
Ha ha!
When I get a bad case of the runs, I know what I go to.
Smoking right on the toilet. Whatever. We had to get a toilet joke in there somehow this episode.
Because this episode wasn't appetizing enough.
No, it wasn't.
Dear listeners.
So an interesting aspect of this, though, too, I think, is that it's interesting to me how these ideas of alternative medicine sort of play into larger questions of conspiracy, right? Because, I mean, one of the biggest hawkers of alternative medicine bullcrap right now is Alex Jones.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah, I was gonna mention him earlier, but yeah, I was all like, you know what? I'm not even gonna bring him up. I'm not even gonna mention the words. We
have to. I mean, it's a huge part of the story, right?
Yeah.
So,
totally.
So the use of alternative medicine as a cash cow for the conspiracy field has been going on since almost the beginning of the conspiracy field, really. But it's blossomed now today into this larger thing where you can buy canned food for the apocalypse and, water filters. And, it's kind of, I mean, a lot of the episodes we've done recently kind of have this overarching theme, I think, of people in the conspiracy field taking advantage of people that are scared or sick or whatever.
Fear mongering.
This is a very good
bank.
Now, but this is an interesting example of it because I think that in this case, it's almost because there's two sides to the anti-medicine world, right?
Mm-hmm.
There is there is certainly the aspect of it that is distrustful of government and whatever, but then there is also the part of it that is distrustful of corporations, right?
Yes.
So it's kind of like, this is kind of an interesting one because it is alternative medicines and black salves and these sorts of things are in some ways kind of like a hippy dippy thing.
Yes.
Right?
It's sort of like crystals. It's like that
it is. It's very much so like crystals, right? So
I'm sorry, Mom.
No, but it's like we have two sides of the conspiracy coin. We have the side of the conspiracy coin that's like, only eating MREs and sleeping outside in military fatigues. Or we have the side of this that is Star Child with her crystals and her, patchouli and whatever, right? So like it's fascinating to me that this one is kind of a all-encompassing idea, where the distrust of medicine or the idea that, well, they don't know what they're talking about, I bet I can get one over on them, is so persistent in humans that we even will put our lives on the line for it.
Yes. The mistrust, it's like almost it's hubris, and this mistrust of an authority figure that is not, that you like, that you think you should know better than.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? That's
now.
Yeah, go ahead.
No, I was going to say now an interesting part of this that is out there today is the presence of YouTube idiots who claim that they are being cured of their cancer through any number of ridiculous things. So for instance, there was recently there was a YouTube celebrity, Liz Johnson's, it's her channel, but her aunt, Mary Lopez, died in December, after her cancer came back. Now, they host a YouTube channel called Liz and Marie, and basically they believe that her veganism cured her of her cancer initially. And then when the cancer came back, her aunt started radiation therapy, chemotherapy, and started eating meat again. And so Liz Johnson, the Liz of the Liz and Marie channel, now claims that it is because her aunt stopped her vegan diet that she died.
So if you decide to be vegan, I support you. I support you because you are making a choice of what you want to eat. Just because that's the choice you want to make. And we live in a, especially if you're on the coast or really anywhere else in America, that you will have a plenitude of options to make these decisions. However, these decisions may not necessarily be tied to something as diverse of a disease as cancer, like you were saying, right? It's not like, again, like if I have a irritable bowel syndrome, I might cut back on X or cut back on Y, and it will help improve the symptoms of what's ailing me. But it's like, you hear this and you're just, and again, like I go to a place emotionally that's just, that I want to vilify, right? That I'm just like, what the fuck are you thinking?
Yeah.
That's the most ridiculous. How could you be so stupid? But it's like, if you strip that all away, these people are making decisions that they do think they have some sort of, even if it's a false commonality or some, a conclusion that has led them to this decision. And that's what I think is the most fascinating. It's like, so I have not gone to this YouTube channel, and I probably won't because my blood pressure will fucking go nuts. But like, what do you think drives this? Like, what is the thing that kind of perpetuates this with something like veganism? Because it's like, I don't know if there's even been, again, medical studies to prove one way or the other on anything about veganism necessarily. Not that that's good or bad or indifferent, but.
So so the question basically was a really long question. Yeah, it was long.
Sorry. I apologize. Oh, I just get a little. The question is like, what, if you can't just look at these people and dismiss them, right? I can't just look at somebody who thinks that veganism is going to cure cancer. I have to understand what got them to that. What got them to make that decision? And is it something like hope? Is it something like belief? You know, I have not watched the channel, so I'm asking you, what do you think it is after viewing it?
So I think that in some cases it is. So actually, I want to read 2 stories of people that were treated with Black Salve, because I think it goes over kind of. I think hearing their stories kind of tells you a little bit about why they chose to do this.
Yeah.
The reason that I would say generally it happens though is because, number one, people don't honestly have a good. So okay, I am I would say probably more well trained in the sciences than the average person.
Yeah.
Right.
Especially myself. Yes.
When I go to the doctor and she tells me to try something,
Mm-hmm.
I have no idea if what she's telling me is good advice or not.
Mm-hmm.
Right? All I can do is trust my doctor to be giving me good advice. Right?
Yes.
Now, another part of that though is picking a good doctor or an appropriate doctor. So for instance, you know, when I started looking for like mental health treatment, I looked for a very specific type of treatment that was, by all the literature, very effective for treating what I believed were my issues. Right.
Mm-hmm.
So I looked for someone very specific after I was given a diagnosis officially. So, but to get there, I had to wade through a lot of other places that were not by, doctors of psychology or right. Like I had to go through, and not that there's anything wrong with these people doing this sort of work, but I had to go through therapists and social workers and, like it's the world of some of these medical areas are very wide open. And so it's hard to tell if the person you're going to for dermatology advice, or even say cancer treatment or something, wellness, whatever it is, are they a board certified dermatologist? Are they a chiropractor, which is his own whole can of bullshit? Are they a herbalist, which means that they got, they went to Sedona for a weekend? Are they, you know what I mean? Like literally, like there's a lot of
yeah, I felt that all the way over here.
I'm sorry.
Shade.
It was true
on the
though.
Herbalists.
Well, there's just like there's
smackdown on Sedona.
There's a lot of there's a lot of wiggle room here, and I think especially with dermatology, we don't necessarily like. I think we should take it more as a serious thing, but we think of it like, oh, it's on the skin, so you can just cut it off, whatever, right? So that's kind of where I would say I think it comes from. But again, so like, okay, here's 2 stories. This first one is from Gail Bumpus, of Singer Island, Florida. Sorry. She was the victim of 84-year-old's. Oh, this is, by the way, from quackwatch.org, which is a really good website. So Gail Bumpus of Singer Island, Florida, was the victim of 84-year-old Jerome Kraft, MD, a board-certified plastic surgeon who advertised in the Yellow Pages as a specialist in cancer and burns. Now, quickly before I finish this, that is one of those areas that is very shaky, I feel like, right? Plastic surgery, again, I'm not a doctor, but
you are, but you're not that kind of doctor.
Kind of doctor.
Yeah.
My dentist in New York also did Botox. Like what? You know what I mean? Like that doesn't make any sense. You're not that kind of doctor. So it's kind of it can be kind of a thin place, I guess, between professions.
I was gonna say that was a very anti-dentite comment there.
No, I love dentists. Okay. In 2005, she consulted him about possible surgery for excess skin under her nose.
Okay.
During the first 2 visits, without taking a biopsy, Kraft said that she had extensive cancer in the nose and that a black salve that he had invented would remove the cancer without leaving any scars. After the salve was applied, her nose became extremely painful and her face swelled like a pumpkin. Although an emergency room physician advised hospitalization, Kraft talked her into remaining under his care for 10 more days, during which time she experienced excruciating pain but was reassured that she would be fine. When she finally returned to the hospital, she was admitted for 5 days and treated with massive doses of antibiotics. When the dead tissue was removed from her nasal area, it was apparent that her nose had been burned off. And that's not just like a saying here. There are photos here. Her nose is literally burned off.
Oh, God.
So far, she has had 6 operations to reconstruct a nose. In 2007, the Florida Board of Medicine secured a consent agreement under which Kraft was reprimanded, fined $9,000, ordered to pay administrative costs, and banned from using Black Salve again. Kraft died in August 2007. So this doctor here claimed that he had created this thing, and again was probably using it on people just to make a quick buck. Okay, now here's another story. In 2006, a woman in Liberty Hill, Texas, developed a small but deep-rooted cancer on the skin of her nose that was biopsied and diagnosed by a dermatologist. Surgery was recommended, but her sister, who has practiced as a master herbalist for many years, persuaded her that a bloodroot paste would do a better job. The first picture shows her nose and the surrounding skin became inflamed. The second picture shows the hole in her nose that resulted. The paste destroyed some areas of bone and cartilage, which meant that when the wound healed, she required extensive plastic surgery. She also reported that the inflamed area was extremely painful for more than a week. So...
For more than a week.
I know, it's so interesting.
Yeah. Yeah. It's going to be painful for a little while. If you lose a nose, it's going to hurt. It's going to sting.
Yeah.
Oh, God.
So there's another one here. This one I think is interesting. Again.
Hold on. I have to lay down on the floor.
So another area like this, naturopaths, acupuncture, homeopaths, all this stuff. That means you didn't, that means you bought a scalpel on eBay and you didn't go to medical school. That's what that means. Okay. In 2015, a jury in Montana awarded $139,500 plus costs to Tina McCall for damage caused by a black salve administered by naturopath Michael Lang. Court documents indicate that in 2012, after Lang applied the salve to treat a blemish on McCall's nose, she developed a dime-sized third-degree burn that required plastic surgery and periodic injections to restore and maintain her appearance. McCall appealed the verdict in an effort to have punitive damages added, but the appeal court denied her appeal. So,
good God.
The thing is that the thing again is that it is very easy, I think, for people to be swindled by, again, I have the name, like I have doctor in the title of my name now, right? And so that makes it much more easy for, like, I could start a website right now and call it Dr. Cogswell Natural Healing Center or something.
Are we going to do this? Is this a thing?
No. Well, I don't know. We'll have to see, I guess. But
is there revenue to be made from this? No, that's wrong. Sorry, keep going.
That's wrong, Marie, which is why we're going to do it in Dez's name. I'm going to be the doctor behind the name. So it's people come up to me or people will ask me stuff like this actually relatively commonly, which is kind of weird. Like, and people also, I have a lot of opinions about science stuff, but I don't have a lot of, my expertise is limited to general philosophy and doing of science, I guess, but then also, sort of the area that I'm interested in, which is chemistry and material stuff, and like nanotech, right? But, I don't know anything about space. I don't know anything about bio, whatever. So it's really easy for people to fall into that fallacy of, well, this guy's got a doctor in front of his name. This guy's got a lab coat on. He must know what he's talking about.
Because you also walk around with a lab coat, right?
Totally, 100%, all the time almost. So it is an interesting thing. And I wonder if we're coming to a point again, we talk about this sometimes about peak kind of, this area where we've hit a point in time where people are much more susceptible to, or I don't think much more susceptible to, but the internet is this interesting door into the ability to buy and do almost whatever you want. And so it's opened up this dangerous door for people to take supplements and at home treatments and whatever for themselves that they probably shouldn't be doing.
Yeah. And for people to self-diagnose a lot easier too, right? Like with WebMD and all that stuff. If you start to feel kind of achy, you go on there, Google out your symptoms, and boom.
Oh yeah. That's especially true of mental health stuff, right? People are very ready and open and willing, I think, to go on and they'll Google their symptoms because they're too embarrassed or scared to go to a doctor. And then they'll find out, you've got melanoma, it's like, I was feeling depressed. I can't believe I have melanoma.
No wonder I was depressed. I've got cancer.
Right. It's wild. Yeah. But the idea of the Black Salve is part of a much larger misunderstanding of cancer generally though, too. Right. So one myth that I've heard a lot is, and just now that we're ending this episode, one myth that I've heard a lot is the idea that cancer, if you leave cancer alone, it'll be slower or more easily treated than if you cut open someone and do surgery on them. That was a pretty common belief in Staten Island when I was growing up. It was like, if you leave the cancer alone and do treatment that way, it's easier. But if you cut into it or try to remove it or something, it'll come back with a vengeance, and then it'll spread more readily through the rest of the body. Right. Another one, of course, is the idea that, cancer can be caused by power lines or electromagnetic radiation.
Oh my God, yes. Yeah.
All of that stuff. Like, cancer is because it's such a complicated area, it's again super easy to start selling these ideas. And it makes it easy for people to buy into these cures that are at best just trying to take advantage of you, and at worst can actively harm you.
Oh, yes. And it's so interesting you say that about the power lines, because that's even sort of systemic today. I was talking to my parents about this house in Boulder, Colorado. And Boulder, Colorado is, if you haven't heard of it or been there lately, it is now incredibly affluent, and it is almost the cost of living and the cost of buying a home is rivaling that of the Bay Area. So for fun, they were looking at homes, and they found this home, a 3-bedroom, 2-bath. It was like ridiculously less expensive than the other homes that were on the other side of sort of of a wide street, and they were on the other side of a street set further back. But this one home was like $300,000 less. And it was because it had the power lines going down the back side of it. In the backyard, and then on the other side of the yard is sort of the power lines running perpendicular to it. But like $300,000 less expensive.
Wow.
Right? So it's, again, if houses there are now selling in the millions, like 900,000, this was much less. And there is no, and I was like, but there's nothing that's going to come of that. And again, my parents and my mom, they were still suspect of it. I'm like, no, there's no correlation between the two. So I think even in this day, it affects all, that belief affects your health. It affects, property value, which is pretty amazing when you think about the persistence of belief with that type of thing.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Yes.
So quick with the end of this episode here, I wanted to read off actually. So this is the most recent illegally sold cancer treatments from the FDA's website.
And we have not sold any of these either.
We haven't, despite the very suspicious name of one of these companies. It is not us.
It's not us.
So,
oh God.
So here's the company name, and then this is the company name. So these companies really received warning letters from the FDA that says you're illegally selling cancer quackery, basically. Mm-hmm. You're selling things that have been marketed and sold without FDA approval, and they've not been reviewed for safety, efficacy, and they are potentially dangerous to humans and pets. And actually, this I think is really interesting. So, first we have AIE Pharmaceuticals Inc., which sells a thing called Cervognin or Cervogen and colostrum. Colostrian, which I believe is coming from a what is it? The colostrum.
Yeah, colostomy. Yeah, like a colostomy bag. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So Amazing Sour Sop Inc., which sells sour sop capsules, which I have straight idea. No, I have no idea what the hell sour sop is, but
Nor should you.
It's basically a type of it's like the noni berry, right? It's the same idea. It's just a stupid thing that is it basically releases like a coconut oil type feel thing, and it does not cure cancer. Biostar Technology, which sells angiostop, ashwagandha, asparagus extract, olive leaf chi, and Revivin. Caudal Seed and Warehouse Inc., which sells Vitalica, which sounds like a really great name for an 80-year-old, like a bunch of old dudes in a Metallica cover band. Vitalica! Badass.
Oh my God, that's awesome. Copyright. Yeah, we got copyright on that, people.
We have here drvix.com, which sells, it's just a bunch of vitamins that, vitamins aren't really shown to do anything either. So sorry, moms everywhere. No. Everything Herbs, which sells cleavers, inkberry, Korean ginseng, lapacho, red clover, and whole apricot, which I think might just be an apricot.
Whole apricot. If it's the whole apricot seed, it's poison, right?
Well, it's called whole apricot. I don't know what it is. I mean, if you eat a whole apricot seed, you're going to have a bad time in the bathroom.
Yes. Well, and it's also toxic, highly toxic.
Yeah. So this is, it is toxic?
It is toxic. I don't know if you have to roast it. There is a way. It is a toxin. The actual pit or the stone of the fruit is toxin. Google it, people. I might be wrong, but I think I'm right on that one.
So
science. Sorry.
This other thing here is actually sold. This one is sold on Amazon. It's called Hawk Doc Genital Wart Remover and Relief. It is from Hawk Doc Natural Salve LLC. I believe that this is Black Salve.
People, don't be putting that anywhere. Not on your nose. Not on any strange bumps or warts or places. Just don't try and get gum off the sidewalk with it. There's nothing that can come out of that.
Yeah, so this contains bloodroot. So this is in fact Black Salve. So don't buy this. It's really bad.
Do not buy it. Buy it and put it on your genital warts. Is that what?
Don't do it.
Good Lord.
Yeah. This is Healing Within Products Inc. and Services. They sell Black Salve. Herbal Alchemist, which sells CBD, so cannabidiol capsules. And actually a couple of these are selling. They're basically selling weed oil.
Yeah. Hemp oil.
Hemp oil that's being used to say that it can cure cancer. Hemp oil is a great way to have a great time. Well, not cure cancer.
It doesn't even, if we can just.
Oh, not hemp oil. THC oil.
THC oil is one thing, but hemp oil, just so we can, if I may intervene quickly, because my mom talks about hemp oil. And my whole point to her was it doesn't have the THP.
The
THC,
the stuff that's actually that actually is known to help you with at least the effects of chemotherapy.
It doesn't have that. It's just the oil of the plant without that chemical. It does not get you high, Mom.
No.
Moms.
Sorry. There's also Life Vantage Corp, Nature's Treasure Inc., which again is selling this colostrum capsules.
Don't be putting this stuff on your genitals. Don't be doing anything with the colostrum that's gonna mess up your insides, people.
Yeah, so just so you know, colostrum is like the super heavy milk that is first produced, so it's pretty gross. We also have here, it's not gross necessarily if you're a baby, but it's certainly gross if you're a dude drinking from a cow. Or a person drinking from a cow. You also have Oxygen Health Systems.
Oxygen.
Stanley Brothers Social Enterprises, Sunstone Inc., That's Natural, The Vibrant Health Store, LLC, DBA, Dr. Christopher's Herbs.
Dr. Christopher's Herbs.
That one's not me. This one is also totally selling Black Salve, and then the Vitamin C Foundation, which is selling a bunch of bullshit vitamin C stuff. So the new stuff that's kind of on the market right now for in terms of stuff that's supposed to cure cancer but won't is CBD oils, and also really this red clover blossoms is another thing that we're seeing a lot of.
Not good.
But again, it has no efficacy, so it's not good for you.
No, and if you are afflicted with this terrible disease, listen to your health professionals that have degrees in how to diagnose and treat cancer. It's frustrating, dealing with any kind of medical health system and navigating through it and getting information out is frustrating. And I think a lot of times that frustration and that anxiety can lead people to try and find alternative cures. And that's fine if you want to do that to augment what you're already doing. But please listen to your doctor. Listen to your doctor.
Yeah. Yeah. So if you search for Black Salve on Amazon, there are 146 results that come up.
Don't buy any of them.
Don't buy any of them. But yeah, these are all terrible.
These are bad.
These will hurt you very badly.
These are bad. And I feel like we do have to give a shout out to our respected moms, since we took some pot shots at them during this episode. Mom, Rosemary, I love you very much. And congratulations on being tough as nails. And
hell yeah. Congratulations, kicking cancer's ass all this time. That's amazing.
Ass. And she just, she had a birthday recently too. So
happy birthday.
Mom's got it going on still. And she still gives, gives me a hard time. So, it's good. It's all good. We love our moms.
We do love our moms. All right. Good stuff. Well, listeners, that is it for this episode. We are very happy that you have decided to listen to us, and we'll be back in another week with another episode. We are also going to be doing our radio show for the first time, Marie.
Radio show. It's
amazing.
Gonna be like WPFK Cincinnati. What was that show in the 70s? It's WPFK.
I have no idea.
Oh, that's right, because you're like 14 or something. Yeah.
I know, seriously.
Anyways, we are going to be on
KRSM radio here in the Twin Cities, so Minneapolis, St. Paul, coming at you from South Minneapolis at 98.9 FM. So definitely check us out. We should be starting in a couple of weeks here. We'll be recording the first episode tonight, which is really cool.
Sweet.
And super exciting. So please check us out there. And we'll be back in another week.
Bye.
Thank you again, dear listeners, for listening to the Mad Scientist podcast. I have been your host, Chris Cogswell, joined by my co-host,
Marie Mayhew.
If you'd like to contact the show, please send us an email at themadscientistpodcast@gmail.com. That's all one word. You can also follow us on Twitter at Mad Scientist Pod or at Team Giant Squid for Marie. And of course, you can see us on Facebook, on Instagram, and all over the internet as the Mad Scientist Podcast. And again, our logo is the one with the pumpkin head, so it's easy to see.
Mm-hmm.
If you've enjoyed the show tonight, please consider supporting us on Patreon, where the money that you give to us will help us to promote this show further, to make it better, and just to spend more time making it.
Yes, we love doing that.
We do love doing that. Our logo was designed by Carrie Shaheen. Our web design is done by Desdemona Howard.
Woohoo!
And our sound design is done by Jake Cardinal. Thanks again for listening.
Thank you. This has been a Damn It Chippy production.